Welcome to the program. This is What's Your Story? My name is Catherine Mwangi. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're here at the Tamarind Tree Hotel and we're grateful to the management for giving us this beautiful space to film from. Our guest today is not stranger to conversations, at least with me, and also on a show I've done before, that's Books and Blogs. He is a dear friend of mine and he has incredibly elevated since I last saw you.
Thank you.
How are you?
I am well.
Let me tell people who you are.
Oh, thank you.
Let me tell them. You know me, I have to tell them who you are.
Thank you.
David is an author, a celebrated author in this country with best-selling books. He'll be telling us about them. He is also a boxing champion. Imagine that. Yeah, look at him again. The man is a boxing champion. Don't let his size fool you. If I was to tell you his age, you'd not believe it, so I won't tell you. But best believe it when I tell you, I have asked him severally what is the secret to looking this young, okay? Over and above all of that, he is, his work with UNESCO, EU, USAID, you've done papers with them. He's a former chairman of the Kenya Publishers Association, meaning that he owns a publishing house. And there's something else that is close to my heart that we'll talk about today, which is the blueprint for personal excellence. Yeah. That is the crux of today's conversation. But before we get there, and I haven't even told them everything, he's also a father. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I haven't told them everything, but David, when people hear that colorful, glorious title or positions or status in society, they think you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yeah.
I know you weren't.
I wasn't.
I know you weren't.
Not at all.
They see you looking like this, complete with happy socks. And they imagine it has always been happy for you.
No. Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Tell us about your background.
I was brought up by a single mom. And we were born three of us. My older brother, my younger sister, the child in between.
In between, yes.
And our parents separated when I was only 4.
Wow.
And it was a very bitter separation.
Oh.
My mom was very young and she had dropped out of school to marry my father. And within a period of 6 years, it was over.
Oh, wow.
And she had to do very odd jobs. And I still remember her first job when we were very young, when we were thrown out of home, was as a maid at some place in Karen. And later on, she worked herself up to get a job with what used to be Extelcoms, Kenya External Telecommunications Company, as a cleaner. And she worked so hard, I remember, to feed us and to clothe us and to take us to school and to give us a life. So I celebrate women because I know that there are many of them who have given their entire life and put their entire life, to bring up their children decently and to protect them and to love them and to give them the belief that their dreams too are valid. And my mom was one such person. She made our dreams valid. And she kept encouraging us and telling us that do not be limited by my circumstances, and by our circumstances. Now, I give you the right, the authority to dream and to be. And so, yes, it wasn't life, on a silver spoon.
No.
I've grown up almost believing that you've got to fight for what you want in life.
Yes.
That's how I started off.
My God.
And later on, I was to express it as a teenager in my boxing days.
Boxing. Because everything, you had to fight for everything, even just the will to live.
Yeah.
Absent father, mother struggling with 3 kids.
Yeah. You think about absent father.
Yeah.
Catherine, what many people don't recognize is the pain of kids wanting to be loved, to be appreciated. And we struggled from a very early stage to win our father's love.
Yeah.
And it's painful for kids as they grow up. But then later on, you realize that, look, you've got to man up yourself, or you've got to woman up yourself.
Right.
And realize that even when you don't get entirely all the things that you want in life, it doesn't invalidate who you are.
Who you are.
Neither does it cancel who you can become. Yeah.
I like that. And you know, that's a whole other... It's this thing with you and me that you start on one line of conversation, and I feel like we should take that line and go with it. You know, because especially kids, boys who have grown up without a father's affirmation, they grow up with this wound that if they don't allow to heal, or they actively seek healing, it affects everything else in their lives. So they attribute the status of their life to not having a father. And yet here you are an internationally recognized man, and you work hard for others to realize their dreams, and somehow the wound got healed. I mean, the wound got healed, David. But please make sure you inject that wound getting healed point as you go along. But tell me about how the boxing came about.
So it's very interesting. So we're in high school, and my brother and I were followers of top boxing champions around the world. Of course, in the 80s, Muhammad Ali, topped the heavyweight, league. But then there were other people like Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, Sugar Ray Leonard was a welterweight champion. The thing about Sugar Ray Leonard is that he had 5 belts at one time, and not even Muhammad Ali had achieved that kind of feat. Now, Sugar Ray Leonard's story resonated with us. One, because he came from a very poor background. They struggled to find food, money for a meal. They struggled to find money to access medical care. And I think one of the things that really almost knocked him down was to see his father ailing and, about to die, and they were helpless. They had exhausted all channels, of all the resources. And he thought the only thing he could do was to get into the into the gym that was not far from their home, and to start boxing and earn enough to care for his parents. And that's what he did. And he was young, pretty handsome, and extremely stylish. I mean, he gets to the ring, and you are not just watching a fight, but you're watching great style. And that fascinated us. Now, remember, we didn't have a TV, so we watched this from our neighbors, privileged neighbors, black and white. And that fascinated us. And one day, my brother and I, we were having a conversation, and he said, "Why don't we begin a boxing club?" And I almost rolled my eyes, and I thought, oh my goodness. Nonetheless, Waithaka is in Dagoretti. That's where we grew up. I actually went to Dagoretti High School for my O-levels. And we went to the social hall, and we realized there had been, in Kenya's heydays, there had been a boxing club, but it no longer existed. The gloves were disused. There were punching bags. There was sand around. And so what we did was to get the permission to start a club, which we did, got, some boys around, and we hired a coach. We hired a coach by working over the weekends. And over the holidays. So as teenagers, we worked. We organized some things like discourse to raise money.
For paying the coach.
For paying the coach. And finally, we entered the club into in Nairobi. Kenya used to be organized those days when it comes to sporting. And so there were the inter-social halls competitions, and we entered, and we fought against the toughest clubs. The Muthurwa club is where the champions were born. And the Pumwani club, we fought them, and in our first entry, we took the championship. We still remember, actually, the Standard in the sports pages had a headline, "Waithaka takes the cup, Bilali the glory." Bilali ended up being the an Olympics champion later on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Bilali started off at your club, your
No,
boxing
no, no.
club?
He fought for Muthurwa.
Oh, for Mudura.
Yeah, he fought for Muthurwa.
So that's how you got into boxing?
Yeah.
And then your love for reading. I mean, by the time you're the chairman of the Kenya Publishers Association, meaning that you have a publishing house, where did your love for reading start? Because it couldn't have started as an adult. These things are birthed from...
Let's start early.
Yeah.
I like telling this story because it's about my mom's sisters. Now, so my mom got married at like 16 or something like that.
Yes.
So really the difference between my mom and I was like 18 years, okay? So her younger sisters were very young. Her last born sister was like 6 years older than I was. Bless her, she passed away a few years ago.
Okay.
And both the two last sisters, young, beautiful, and avid readers. They went to good schools, they were smart, and they used to come to on holiday with novels that were this thick. Wilberforce Smith, Robert Ludlam, and all that. And you know, we thought that was really cool. They looked really cool, and we picked up the habit of reading. Again, in those days, libraries were very organized. Macmillan Library was like our fortress. That's where we went over the weekends, and that's where we spent our times during the holiday. Kenya National Library Services had a whole section for fiction. And so, again, my brother and I would go and we would borrow books, and we would, like over the weekends, it was like 2 books a day, because then he would be on his bed, on my bed, I read a book. At night, we exchange. Actually, 2 books in 2 days. We exchange, and the following day we finish. Once we finished reading the books on our library, and we borrow more, and then exchange with other people.
Oh, wow.
And that's how we developed the habit of reading.
Reading. Yeah, the love for books.
The love for books, the love for knowledge, the love for traveling.
Yes.
You see, one of the things books did for me at an early age is, because of living with so much brokenness, and because of you know, all the disappointments that there were in life, and books tended to paint a very different picture, you know, of other parts of the world that seemed to function better and seemed to, you know, get things going. And so that, for me, that escape was a pretty good escape. To tell me that there can be an alternative narrative to life, that there can be an alternative way of living, way of thinking, way of doing things. Look
at you. You see, again, we go back to growing up in circumstances that are not what we'd call normal then, and then just finding activities between you and your brother. And I gather you must be very close, because if you're doing boxing together and then you're going to the library together and you're exchanging books at night, and it's a beautiful relationship to have in those circumstances, and your love for books starts there. So fast forward to, you have your own kids now, and you want them to love to read. What do you do?
Catherine, you know what I was very intentional. Of course, as kids, they didn't know this is what I was doing. There are several things that I hoped that I lost out in life for not having a father that my kids would know or would experience. Some of them was, before I come to the habit of books, was the discipline of work. Because, you know, work is often looked down upon as the things I must do to survive, rather than find the joy of being productive and the joy of creating and the joy of feeling proud that, you know, that's what I've been able to achieve. And then the joy of reading. So what I did with those 2 things was I gave them tasks to do and complete, and there was an incentive at the end. Now, so whether it's washing the car, we did it together and had fun together, washed the dishes together, cleaned the house together, went and did a bit of gardening together. But there was always an incentive. And that incentive would be like 50 bob payment for your work, because they need to also relate, you know, the value that to expect,
Yes.
that
For
they're not
every
just
look,
being,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Then for books, what I did was they read, each book they read, and they completed, and they did a summary for. They earned 50 shillings. The older one earned 100 bob because he read bigger books. And what happened is that the more they earned 50 bob and 100 bob, and it accumulated, and they learned, they had their piggy bank, and they start seeing their money. They started reading more and more and more.
Yeah.
Until at some point, Catherine, I got into debt. And by that time,
Yeah.
the habit was ingrained.
Yes, like you didn't even need to force them. They would go to bookstores by themselves.
You see, the joy is for me to go with them to a mall when they were young,
Yeah.
and they've carried their money,
Yeah.
and they get into a bookshop, and they buy the first time
Yeah.
I saw them buy their own books with their own money, because whenever I travel,
Yeah.
the best price,
Yeah.
I will buy things,
Yeah.
but really, the book is always like the forefront gift that
Yes.
I give them.
Yes.
So when I saw them spend their money buying books, that was such a delightful moment
Yes,
for me.
yeah.
So it's a habit for them until now.
And yeah.
They do their own reading.
Yeah.
I think they read more than I do now. And it's the same thing with attitude towards work.
Yes.
They cultivated that attitude very early. They know the discipline of keeping time. They know the discipline of putting value into their time, so that it's, you may keep time,
Yeah.
but you get value out of the time. So they've learned all those things.
Yeah.
And so I look at them and I feel proud.
So someone may be watching and wondering, so this young man who grew up in this, hardship, this poor home, raised by a single mom, struggling to just find his way in life. You've tried boxing, you're reading. Where and at what point did the breakthrough come?
I would say that two things probably happened.
Okay.
One is probably when I was 17. And when I was 17, I struggled a lot with faith. A lot. I struggled a lot with faith.
Yeah.
I was very far from what you'd call, I didn't want anything to do with
Yes.
religion. I had
Yes.
seen enough bad examples that I didn't care much for it. But I think during that year, I was alone for most of the time because I was in Form 4.
Okay.
And I was doing a lot of study as well as reading. And during my reading is when I came to consider issues of faith, independent of the perceptions that I had had because of bad examples. And I had to consider it as an individual.
And, yes.
And I think I came to recognize that there is a higher being, than I. And that higher being demands a higher level of living for me, both in terms of as an individual and my life of faith.
Yeah.
And I remember one day making that commitment, for change in my life. And I think that was a turning point for me. That's number one. Number two is when I went to A-levels, and then I was the secretary of the Christian Union, and later on, chair of the Christian Union at the university. But when I was in A-levels, I was elected as the deputy school captain.
Leadership.
And, I was elected into leadership. And it became the first time where we had already demonstrated leadership when we began our boxing club. But then I was elected, but that one we initiated.
Yes.
But now I've been elected as a deputy school captain. And it was very high responsibility, and that for me was another turning point. Becoming responsible of my own life, intentionally responsible, because I have to model responsibility to the rest of the people, to the rest of the young people.
Yes.
And remember, now as a role model in high school, I was also in the Christian Union, and people looked up. So that for me was another turning point
Yes.
in terms of living a life of responsibility, And then in terms of modeling responsibility
Yes.
to other people.
Yes.
So those were two turning points for me. Yeah.
I mean, do you look back and just wonder, my life, how exactly did each point happen? Because let me tell you, and I read these stories all the time, and I mentor young people, every so often, and you find a lot of people just bury themselves because of the circumstances that they're born in.
People go through very difficult moments of life. But Catherine, it is at that moment that we need to recognize that it's a moment of decision. Now, I'll give an example. I climbed Mount Kenya several years ago, and I remember the person who took me to Mount Kenya telling me, David, it's going to be so tough that your body will want to completely give up. Your body will not feel like it has the energy to take one more step. But I want you to remember, it is mind over matter. Mind over matter. When your body can't move one more inch, your mind must tell your body to move one more inch.
Wow.
Now, and it got to that point, especially when I finished water. It was during the dawn attack on Point Lenana, and I remember the energetic guy, no water, and I couldn't just move ahead, and I lay prostrate on the ground, and they left. And what I remembered was, my friend, mind over matter. I remembered my family, the wishes they had given me. What will I tell them? I didn't summit Point Lenana, and my mind suddenly told my body, you've got to rise up. And that's exactly what happens in life. That when we are so buffeted, when we are pressed and feeling like we are crushed, we must always remember that we have all it takes for us to rise up again. Now, the problem is that we give power to everybody else. We give power to our bosses. We give power to our parents. We give power to our friends. We give power to society. And they speak so much to our lives, and we start believing that narrative. That's the mistake we make. We must never give too much power to people over our lives, because then we will never rise up from the mat again. We must always retain the power over our lives to emerge. Circumstances will always come in life.
Yeah.
That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
That's one guarantee.
Yeah.
It's the question of, shall we? And probably that's another conversation we will have, because that's all about the personal excellence. Masterclass program is all about helping people recognize that internally we have the resources necessary for us to win, whether it is at work, win whether it is at school, win whether it is at the family level, and soar in life. That's the whole philosophy.
I love it.
Yeah.
You've said it, because actually what you just said, circumstances are guaranteed. That's a constant.
Yeah.
There's not a time you're not dealing with something. In all those spheres that you've mentioned, there's not a time you're not dealing with anything.
Yeah.
So does it mean you quit when all these circumstances change situations? Does it mean you quit? And the answer is no, you can't. But anyway, we are coming to that because you have a solution. Do you hear? Do you see? And we haven't even touched on what you do for for these international organizations. But we have to take a break as we freshen up. And when we come back, we will be discussing the blueprint for personal excellence. Look, you cannot afford to miss this. So hang around, go grab some water as we also take ours. Then we see you in a little bit after this commercial break.
Regardless, none of us is junk. We all have that seed of greatness in each one of us. All of us have a seed of greatness. But what happens in life is that, like we said a little earlier, our script gets written over by people. Maybe we were not good at academics, and we were made to feel like failures.
Yes. Welcome back from the break. This is What's Your Story? My name is Catherine Mwangi. We are having an incredible conversation with author, personal development coach, and a generally just nice person. You know, just this nice, good people. David Waweru.
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, Catherine.
You just were such a blessing in this first part, and just encouraging and lifting people to know that your circumstances don't define you.
Yeah.
And I love the example you gave with Mount Kenya. Actually, it reminded me of a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Who said to me the same thing,
Yeah.
that you get to a certain point and your body just says no.
Absolutely.
And then she sees her friends going and she's like, I will never outlive their ridicule if I do not finish with them.
Yeah.
You know, we rehearsed with them.
Yeah.
We went for fitness exercises with them.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to give up now? You know, and that mind over matter thing, man, it's just powerful. So, the boy who read about all these countries in the novels growing up ended up visiting those countries.
Yeah.
Not just to study, but to do some incredible work for organizations outside this country.
Yeah.
Could you tell us some of it?
One of the things I dreamt about when I got to do my own business is there are things I wanted to achieve. One, run my own business, but secondly, is to travel the world doing my own business. And, you know, it's such a great joy for me to just look back and see that I ticked all the continents. Did I visit them?
My God.
Did I visit some of the places I read about? Yes, I did. And that was really, really great. Now, part of my travel was also to do with the fact that I have done consulting work for some incredible organizations.
Yes.
You know, people like ICOM International, done it's one of the top global consulting firms, done work for them. I've done work for USAID and Education Development Center in the US. I've done work for ADEA, which is a program of the Africa Development Bank in Dakar, Senegal, and many other organizations. And most of this has been one to do with instructional design, designing programs for training for their organizations. And I'm so glad to see them roll out those programs in different parts of the world. And to know that, I designed that curriculum. And part of it has been doing training and have engaged me doing training for some of their programs, and some of them was directly either to issues related to my area, which is publishing, as well as personal development.
Right.
So I've done that, and it's given me joy to see that the boy raised up by the single mom in Waidaka, and who dreamt of becoming a boxing champion, you know, can contribute meaningfully. You know, to people who are doing great work around the world.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
There's something we were discussing a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
That, you know, I was like, David, we have to talk about this. People have to hear this, and you even sent me, you emailed me, the blueprint for personal excellence. So how did you transition from doing all of that? And it's still work you do anyway, because, you know, they'll still call you to help them in certain areas.
Yeah.
But then you decided you needed to pay it forward now. And all this training you're doing for all these countries in different places of the world, you said, I want to bring that back home. Tell us about it. This is the time we have been waiting for.
Thank you, Catherine. Again, let me go back to when I was growing up. I read something. There are many things I've read that have stuck with me, but there is a cartoon I read. And this cartoon was this scruffy looking, you know, poodle or dog, hungry, looking like it's been you know, it's on its own,
Yeah.
abandoned,
Malnourished.
and then there was a caption as it looked up, God don't make no junk.
Oh, wow.
God doesn't make any junk. I've stuck with that. That every human being created, none, regardless of our environmental circumstances, regardless of our background, regardless of our challenges, and they could be personal challenges, could be physical, it could be health.
Yeah.
Regardless, none of us is junk. We all have that seed of greatness in each one of us. All of us have a seed of greatness. But what happens in life is that, like we said a little earlier, our script gets written over by people. Maybe we were not good at academics, and we were made to feel like failures.
Yes.
The education system, emphasized that even more, because we were not academically talented. And I know some people who were not academically talented were so great in other things. Other people may have been subject to some prejudice at some point in their lives, or they may have had a scar that continues to define their life. And so the personal excellence masterclass is to help remove that lead out of people, that limitation from people, so that they can first of all recognize the acres of diamond buried inside of them. And this program is to help them dig those acres of diamond, you know?
Yes.
And it is to help them develop clarity. You see? So there are three main experiences to this program. The first one is helping people get clarity.
Yeah.
First of all, is clarity of who I am. Remember, there is usually a picture of a cat looking at itself in a mirror, but seeing that big lion. It's for them to look at themselves in the mirror and see who they really were created and meant to be. That's number one. Number two is for them to create a sense of future vision, for people to create a sense of future vision. This is where I am today. This is what I feel today. This is, but that's not what I want. I want more. And cast an eye to the future and determine on very specific areas of life, what do I actually want in this area of my life? And once they clarify where they are, where they want to go, then the next question always comes, and this is why people never make that journey, is having the capacity to make that journey, to make the transition from where I am to where I want to go. And then the third experience is get going. So the one is get clear, get capacity, and the other one is the third is get going. And the get going part is basically helping people get practical about creating the kind of blueprint, which is now what you're talking about, blueprint for life, for personal excellence. And this is going to be, again, simplified, because I want to show people that the how, which is where most of us fail. I know where I want to go. I have developed the capacity, but how do I actually translate it into reality? So that's what the blueprint does. Now, helping so that people can get the momentum to wake up every day and get energized about their life, about their plans, about their career, about their family, about their... Now, ultimately, what this program does is to help people live in their zone of genius. So initially you thought I can't, because now you have infinite possibilities. All right? And when you have that, you're in that position, then you're in your zone of genius. And you can be all you can be. You can live your fullest potential.
It's powerful, David.
Thank you.
It is, and I know you have totally summarized it.
Is a summary.
No, but it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you know where most people miss it? Is
Yeah.
that step number one
Yeah.
of getting clarity.
Yeah.
Do you know first who you are?
Yeah.
And do you know what you are called to do?
Yeah.
And so your program helps people identify that.
Absolutely. You know, I'll tell you, clarity. Let me give you a little anecdote.
Yes.
My son, and he was like maybe 11 or so, and he was going through a number of situations. And I will never forget when he asked me, Dad, would you mentor me? And I always say it's the highest call that I have ever had as an individual and then as a parent. And we went through this process. And it's the process, that time I had not developed it to the extent I have now, but it is helping him develop clarity, one, about who he really is, his values. So that's so important, developing a value system, because we make decisions based on who we really are. That's number one. And number two, clarify what kind of life do you want to live?
Yes.
A, B, C, and D. And we went through that. And the moment he just got that clarity, that this is who I am, this is what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And these are also clarity on my limitations, by the way. Because we have to be clear, like if you're climbing that mountain, you have to be clear what our areas of development. People call them weakness, but you know, what are the areas that I need to build on? You need clarity on that.
David, meaning without clarity, there's nowhere we are going. Or without clarity, we go a different direction from what we were called to do.
You can't even begin. As an athlete, I can tell you, as an athlete, I was an amateur boxing champion. And I can tell you, it is not how you show up in the ring that matters.
What is?
It is how you show up in practice that matters. Any Kenyan athlete will tell you that showing up on the track is the smallest part of performance. The biggest part of performance is in preparation, building the capacity, toning up, developing the resilience, the ability to stay in the game. You see, that's what matters. Now the problem is we hardly give sufficient time for where the real show should be, which is practice. You know, and in life, if we want to reach that level of excellence and live our best lives, there's background work to do on me. There's work to do around me. And that's it. And that's why this program that I've developed basically is you know, to help people not just dream, but give wings to their dreams through preparation, and then help them develop the momentum. You know, to keep winning. To keep winning in life. Let me say this, Catherine. Life is a game. Life is a game. And this program helps people win in that game, of life. And to win in a game, you've got to know the rules that govern the game. What is it that will give me success in this game?
And I like when you said something about it's when you have a dream and then you work backwards with someone in order to fulfill that dream. The truth of the matter is actually everyone dreams. We all have a place we want to be in however many years or months or seasons. We all fantasize. We all wish our lives were like whoever's. We actually all have a dream. But that's not enough. you know, that's not enough. What's the work you're putting towards achieving that dream? And that's what David is talking about. That's what David is offering. And please let the people know how to save their seat.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm offering this program in several formats. One format is the workshop format, which will be running from the 6th to the 8th of April this year. That's in a couple of weeks' time, and it will run at the Nairobi Serena Hotel. And, you know, somebody can book their seat on will2win.global.
Say it to them.
Yeah, will2win.global, www.will2win.global, or can talk to us at Will2Win Global, which is the company that's running this, or can talk to me directly. And I'm offering what you call the blueprint for personal excellence, free of charge. So if people actually went to will2win.global today, you can click on the homepage. You will see the blueprint for personal excellence.
Yes.
It's free for you, and you can get it, and you can start, you know, working out on your life.
Yeah.
But
That's
I think
the one you sent me?
That's the one I sent you.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
But I think the program is highly experiential. This is the thing. It's not lecture. You know, it's highly practical in terms of people will be working their plan throughout. It's very experiential, and you know, adults learn best when something is relevant to them today, and that they can experience it. So that's how the program will be offered. It's let me say it's a transformational. This is a transformational program, and my goal is not to offer any other kind of training. I've done so much training, I mean, around the world, and I can tell you, you know, which is really great. But there are certain trainings you go to and they're transformation. You actually experience transformation. And that's how this whole experience is built. Is to help move people from here to there and keep them on that momentum of their own growth and achievement and their pursuits.
The word you use there, momentum, I love it. But you know, the way to know that David is not just saying things is to go to that website, will2win.global. Will2win.global is down there. You can read that and go download that blueprint for personal excellence. He sent that to me. And let me tell you, you know how you read something like, okay, this one I'll handle later, maybe when I'm in a certain zone. And when you read it, it gives you clarity already. You start to feel, oh my goodness, I hadn't thought of this way. This question, what's the answer? And it's free of charge. So go to the site, download it, and then from there, make the decision to join David on April the 6th to the 8th. Again, the website should be able to give the details on how to register, etc. And you know, this program today was just about demystifying the myth that you see people with this life status and you imagine that that's how it's always been, but boy from Waidaka, raised by a single mother, and now he wants to help people. He has been helping people all over the world, but now you're bringing it back home to whomever is willing to receive help.
To live their authentic selves. And to live life to the fullest.
I love it.
Because we all deserve it.
Yes, I love it. David, you know it can never end. You and I have to stop somewhere. This is a somewhere.
Thank you.
Charity is queuing me down and we just need to say goodbye. But of course this conversation continues. You know my city saved at that training.
I'm so glad to have you in the training.
There's no way I'm missing that training. Let me tell you, you get to a point in life where you're like, you know what? And these are things you know you desire. Like are these things offered in Kenya? Because they're only offered in the West. Very expensive. By the time I go to the American embassy and they don't give me a visa to go for training I've paid for, but now you're bringing all this here. So for me, it's about just taking advantage. It's been offered. It's here at the Serena. I'll go there and do my thing. So thank you for having this program for us, David. And thank you for making the time to come today.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
Okay.
And your crew. Really, really appreciate the honor.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
And to you watching, thank you so much. We hope today's story, courtesy of David Waweru, has inspired you to know mind over matter. That's it. Like if you forget everything else, mind over matter. If you want to remember how and when he said that, the show goes up on YouTube right now, and there's a repeat this coming Tuesday at 11 p.m. From us here on What's Your Story, thank you to the camera crew and to the producer and to everybody else, the makeup artist, the driver. We appreciate your service and your time and your passion for this program. Thank you. God bless you.
Karibuni Tamarind Tree Hotel. Tamarind Tree Hotel is part of the larger Tamarind group of hotels and restaurants, including the world-famous Carnival restaurant. In the hotel, we have 160 rooms. The beauty about our rooms is the space. Our rooms are the most spacious in Nairobi. You will not find room like you find in Tamarind Tree Hotel, which we have all categories, starting from the smallest, the basic room, which is a standard room. We have superior suites, superior rooms, executive suites. We have family rooms. We have a presidential suite, which can take care of the most dignitaries you want to have. When you're sleeping with us, staying with us, we give you early check-in as early as 10 in the morning, and the following day we'll give you a late check-out at 6 p.m. So it's really 2 days, 1 night. We have a heated swimming pool. We allow you to use a swimming pool. We have a gym. We have spa. So when you are here, you will not get bored. Karibuni Tamarind Tree Hotel.